serviceman. For years, members of the Naval Academy Rifle Team have visited his grave in the Arlington National Cemetery on the Sunday nearest the anniversary of his death. This book is an effort to counteract Lee's relative obscurity in naval annals. My journey to this point started in 1969 when I received orders to serve in the crew of the battleship New Jersey as Assistant Combat Information Center Officer. Coincidentally, Lee was an early proponent of the value of CICs. When the opportunity came to join that ship, I began a project to read naval history because the New Jersey had made so much history herself, including serving as Admiral Halsey's flagship at Leyte Gulf. Once I reported aboard, I found and perused a copy of the ship's cruise book from World War II. One page depicted the 4 officers who had flown their flags on board the ship during the war: Halsey, Admiral Raymond Spruance, Rear Admiral Oscar Badger, and Lee. That awakened a flicker of awareness. Once my tour in the New Jersey ended, I returned to civilian life and made a special trip to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to see the memorial and museum that honored the state's namesake battleship in which Lee had served. Still later, I visited the museum ship North Carolina, another of his wartime flagships, and a sister of the one in which he spent most of his time, the USS Washington. It was an honor to tour the North Carolina, especially the flag quarters in which Lee had lived and worked. In 1974, I joined the staff of the U.S. Naval Institute in Annapolis as one of the editors of Proceedings magazine. Annapolis gave me proximity to the wealth of naval history source material in the Washington, D.C. area and in the Naval Academy Library. Research for this book began in the autumn of 1975 with searches of the records and by engaging in interviews and correspondence with individuals who had served with Lee. The goal here is to provide a narrative portrait of Lee as a human being and as a naval officer. His entire life, not just World War II. Descriptions of how he interacted with people are important in delineating his character and personality. By nearly every account, he was a pleasant man with a sense of humor, sometimes coming across as quiet and relatively unassertive. In all likelihood, the Leyte Gulf fiasco was the most disappointing and frustrating experience of his life. The essence of the man was that he cared deeply about the naval profession. He enjoyed what it offered and what he could offer it. My research on Lee began more than 40 years ago, and I am embarrassed that the completion of the project has only now come to fruition. Many other books, articles, and oral histories intervened on my agenda in the meantime. I am particularly rueful that all but a few of those who provided information for this book are no longer alive to read the result they helped to bring about. On the other hand, I am grateful that the Admiral's story can now revive the reputation he acquired in his lifetime. In addition, as Captain Mobley suggested, the description of Lee's life can also serve as an inspiration to Navy professionals of this century. 1. Mischievous Moose in Kentucky, 1888 to 1904. For many years, long after he had left Owen County, Kentucky, Willis Augustus Lee, Jr. was still known by local residents as Mose. The nickname originated in the spring of 1888. Despite her advanced stage of pregnancy, his mother persisted in her pastime of fishing on Eagle Creek, which ran near the family home at Natley. On 11th May, she stayed at it so long, in fact, that she had to be rushed home from the creek for the birth of what proved to be her second son. She joked afterward that she might name him Moses because she had taken him away from the water, just as Pharaoh's daughter had rescued the biblical Moses from his hiding place among the bulrushes of the Nile River in ancient Egypt. The baby was named for his father instead, but the nickname stuck. The father was a 35-year-old farmer and schoolteacher whose roots were in Kentucky. The baby's great-grandfather, Joseph R. Lee, had been born in the state in 1787, and his grandfather, Nathaniel W. Lee, in 1825. Nathaniel was a farmer and licensed distiller of bourbon whiskey. He operated a mill on Eagle Creek for grinding grain into meal and flour. The rural hamlet in which the family lived was known originally as Lee's Mill, and by 1888 had been renamed Natley, a contraction of Nathaniel Lee's name. Nathaniel died in 1890.